Just like a flower, I'm growing wild. I'm nobody's child. I'm nobody's child. Just like a flower, I'm growing wild. I'm nobody's child. I'm nobody's child. Just like a flower.
मेरा नाम तापस बोस। मैं कलकत्ता से आया था गाड़ी में। गाड़ी से मेरे को सीआईडी ने पकड़ा तो मेरा पास टिकट था। टिकट देखा तो बोला इतना रुपया कहाँ से लिया? हम बोला घर से ले आया। तो मेरे को बोला ठीक है तुम घर से ले आए, इतना रुपया तुमको बम्बई में छीन लेगा, तो तुम एक आश्रम में चलो, वहाँ तुम्हारा माँ बाप को बुलाए तो तुम ले जाएगा। तो हम बोला कि आश्रम तो अच्छा जगह है, ठीक है चलिए। तो मैं उसके साथ चला आया। आने के बाद मेरे को सीआईडी ऑफिस में ले गया। वहाँ हमको नाम पूछा, रुपया गिनती किया। करने के बाद हम वहाँ खाना पीना खाया है। उसके बाद इधर आया, कैंटीन में चाय पिया है। पीने के बाद यहाँ ले आया। यहाँ हमका नाम पूछा है। पूछने के बाद मेरे को अंदर कर दिया। तो मैं नहीं जानता था कि यह जेल है।
मेरा नाम जयंती लाल है। मेरा माँ ने मेरे पिताजी को छोड़ दिया और दूसरी शादी किया। इसके लिए इन दोनों में आपस में बहुत झगड़ा होने लगा और मैं इस झगड़े में तंग आ गया और मैंने घर छोड़कर बम्बई में आ गया।
मेरा बचपन से पिताजी नहीं है, मर गए। उनको टीबी की बीमारी थी, इसलिए मैं मेरी माँ के पास रहती थी। तो मेरी माँ को एक औरत ने फंसाई, इधर बेच डाली और बोली कि तुम्हारी लड़की तड़प रही बोल के मेरी माँ को बेची और मेरे को बोली तेरी माँ बुलाती है। वो मेरे को लेके सीधा बम्बई आई। बम्बई में लाके मुझे बहुत तकलीफ देने लगी। बचपन से मेरे को वो कुछ बोलती है तू कभी बड़ी होएगी, कभी तुझे बेचूंगी।
मैं नागपुर का रहने वाला हूँ। मेरे दोस्त लोग लेके आए बम्बई में घूमने के लिए। बोला मोटर कार देखेंगे, अपना बिल्डिंग बहुत बड़ा है, इसलिए लेके आए। और इधर आके ऐसा स्टेशन पे उतरा तो हवलदार पकड़ा और लेके आए।
मेरी सगी माँ भाग गई तो मेरा बाप ने सौते दूसरी शादी किया। उसके इस व्यवहार के कारण मैं घर से भाग के आया।
जो दिन मैं भाग गई थी उस दिन मेरे माँ ने बोली तू स्कूल जा। मैं नहीं जाती थी तो बोले तू नहीं जाएगी तो तेरे को मारेगी। मैं क्या करा, घर से भाग गई। घर से जब भाग गई मैं ट्रेन में उठी। मेरे सबको पूछी ये ट्रेन किधर जाएगी? वो लोग बोला बॉम्बे में जाएगी।
अपन ऐसे ही चला आया घूमने के लिए। फिर अपन स्टेशन में आया बम्बई सेंटर में, हुआ एक हवलदार मुझे पकड़ लिया।
मेरे को घर पे अच्छा नहीं लगता काम पे भेजने की। तो मैं एक दिन गई नहीं काम पे, तो माँ बोली तेरे को जाने ही मांगता है, तो मैं गई नहीं। तो मेरी माँ रात को बहुत चिल्लाई। तो सुबह माँ बोले कि तेरे तू काम पे जा। मैं बोले मैं नहीं जाएगी, आज कल जाएगी। तो माँ गुस्सा करी। मैं सुबह निकल के आई घर से। मैं बचपन में से घर से आया हूँ भीख मांगते। गणपति के दिन वहाँ से आते समय घर का रास्ता भूल गया। तो यहाँ स्टेशन पे आया तो एक लड़के ने मुझे यहाँ ले आया।
मेरे को एक लड़का घर से फंसा के लाया, इधर फंसा के लाया। वो मेरे को छोड़ के चला गया। मैं सोया रहा, मेरे को हवलदार पकड़ के इधर लाया।
This one is too young to tell his own story. There are many others. According to one estimate, there are nearly 25 million orphan and destitute children in India. In Maharashtra alone, the figure runs into several thousands. Only a small proportion of these children get any kind of institutional care. The rest take to either begging, vagrancy, or other such anti-social activities. There are several homes in Bombay which look after these children. They are either government aided or are run by voluntary agencies. One such home is here in Umarkhadi, where I am standing now. Established in 1927, this is claimed to be the oldest such home in India. At the present moment, there are over 600 children under its care. How do these children come here in the first place? I put this question to Mr. V.B. Khandekar, who is superintendent of this home.
Children are coming under the Bombay Children Act, because in Bombay there is an act, and according to that act, any child, if he is a male not completed 16 and if she is a girl not completed 18, commits any offence in Bombay or runs away from home and comes to Bombay, then they can be taken charge by the police under the Bombay Children Act. And according to that rule, because the children are not supposed to be kept in the police lockup, so they are brought in the remand home as a safe custody. Then another way, sometimes the parents, if they feel that their child is uncontrollable, so there is one section, that is under section 47, as an uncontrollable, the parents can make an application to the juvenile court, and after making inquiry, if the court feels that the child is really uncontrollable and needs the institution, then the court also can take charge of that child, and the child can be kept in the remand home as a safe custody.
How do they spend the day here, and what kind of recreational facilities do they have?
To occupy the children is the main problem, means main work in our observation home, and therefore we say the occupational therapy is the only therapy, and so we have got to occupy them. We have got small trades like pottery, clay modeling, then making envelopes, the tailoring, making bead articles, bags. This gives occupation plus little training, and if they go out and if seriously they work, they can get the job outside and can earn out of it. Then the recreation is also an important part, this being in remand home, and they are not allowed to go out until and unless the court order is there. So recreation is a very important, and therefore we have got the outdoor and indoor both types of games.
Now we are at Sneh Sadan in Andheri. Sneh Sadan is a children's home run by a voluntary organization. At Sneh Sadan, they have a system what is called the open house. What is this open house? Father Fonseca, director of Sneh Sadan, explains.
I'm starting from the point where the boy comes from, one where he is totally free to do what he wants, the freedom to go where he likes and comes where he likes when he wants. And I think this is the uniqueness in this approach of ours.
What are the main reasons? Why do you think these children come here?
The reasons why they come here, right, I think are three. Firstly, poverty, then it is overpopulation, and lastly the large rate of migrancy. A lot of people from all over India come into Bombay, maybe for a number of reasons, and they don't get employment, and then you find their children hanging sort of all around the place with nothing to do. Now these are the types, some of the children that I really move around stations in Bombay and I meet them. It's really very seldom that I meet a girl on the station, but boys you have lots of them. We have right now in Sneh Sadan 12 cottages, and out of these 12 cottages, 10 are for boys and 2 are for girls.
Mrs. Mehboob Nasrullah, a former sheriff of Bombay and an eminent social worker, has been working in this field for many years. What does she feel about the problem?
Kuwar, the problem of destitute children is so enormous that I think everyone now is concerned about it. Not because of the International Year of the Child, but because the problem has become really menacing. And we shouldn't really talk in terms of children now, because these children will very soon be taking over the responsibility of running the country. So let us think in terms of the children in homes, in different homes, where children get food, they get shelter, they get clothes, but they do not get emotional security. They do not have someone who befriends them. They are being put in there for some problem which is not really so enormous that they should be clapped in for so many years in a house which has really no sort of friendship to offer. You would be surprised what it means to a child in an institution when you go there and try to just talk to that child or befriend that child or remember the child names or stroke his hair. He feels he's found someone. Now, so you can imagine how deprived they are, that if a person visits them once, they will always remember that person, and the question is, when are you coming next?
Dr. Armaiti Desai is a professor at College of Social Work, Nirmala Niketan. I asked her, how does she look at the problem?
In our country, the traditional mode of caring for such children has been institutionalization and often large institutions. Very often these institutions are not controlled for the quality of care that is provided. If government provides a grant, it's more in the nature of an audit visit, not in the nature of a visit to help these institutions develop their care, their delivery system, with the result that many of these institutions can cause more harm than good to these children.
What kind of harm can be done to these children? What about their emotional and psychological needs? Mrs. Ranjan Amin is a social scientist who has specialized in child development. I asked her what kind of future these children can expect when they grow up and leave these institutions.
What we do is we have a tendency to view them as pieces of mankind held up for inspection. We penalize them for not having a home or a family or the right address. And actually I feel that what they need is a fair chance, because they've grown up sort of with very little faith in people. They've lost trust in adults and in the concern that people should have for them. At the same time, their own sense of worth and value is very low. And I feel that unless we show our concern for these children and build up their faith in us from the time they are little children in institutions, and make them feel that the world outside the institution is a good place to go into, the whole function, I think, of having an institution is lost, because these boys and girls are trained for vocations, but then when they go out and seek employment, the general tendency is to ask them, well, who their parents are and what is their address, and you grew up in an institution, so, well, you are suspect. When you look at it, I think people living in so-called respectable homes are not immune or above delinquent acts and criminal acts. So I don't see why these children should not be given a fair chance right through. And I wouldn't say a second chance, because they never had a first chance.
Most people agree that the problem is a serious one. But was enough being done to solve or at least minimize it? Dr. Desai.
As far as services are concerned, I would like to make it very clear that not enough is being done for them. This is not only for destitute children, but in the whole field of social welfare, I would say that probably, and this is a general estimate that is being spoken of, not more than 1% of those who are actually in need are served by the various services we have, both governmental and voluntary. In the 5 plan periods that we have had, 5 5-year plan periods, that is 25 years of planning, the allocation to social welfare has been as little as 0.5% in the entire budget of the plan periods. This shows the quantum of funds which can be available to social welfare, and therefore how much can realistically be done by the field of social welfare. The priority for social welfare is extremely low.
Mrs. Malti Tambevedya is the Secretary of the Department of Social Welfare, Government of Maharashtra. I asked her, as someone in charge for the welfare of destitute children, what did she have to say?
I would myself concede that there is indeed a very wide gap, and there is indeed a lot of scope to do a lot more. Now, I have always said that social welfare, any aspect of social welfare, be it the destitute children or others, government can never expect to do it itself in isolation. The entire society has to be with the government in this, and it's only if both of them do it together that we can hope to achieve some substantial results. Now, in the current year, we are spending about 2.5 crores on our efforts. By our efforts, I mean what we are doing and what we are giving to the voluntary institutions by way of grant in aid from the government side. In the 6th plan, we intend to increase the number of these institutions encourage the voluntary agencies to increase their number so that we continue to give them the grant in aid. And the amount that we would be spending on the destitute children should work out to be about 14 crores in the 6th plan period. You know, there are orphanages, there are Bal Sadans, or even the remand homes, certified schools. We encourage voluntary sector to come forward. And we ultimately, it is always better for government to let them be run by the voluntary sector because it is more economical.
Now, the basic principle which I think should be accompanying all care of children who are in need of some help beyond what the family can provide should be that the child should be kept in his own home as far as is possible, with supports to the family to keep him at home rather than placing the child away from home. Now, what is the assumption behind such a principle? First of all, no substitute adult can give the kind of affection which an own parent can give. This we know, and this is something that needs therefore to be supported and nurtured. Second important aspect here is that institutional care is far more expensive than maintaining a child in his own home, because institutional care involves capital costs as well as recurring costs. A second would be, can people like your viewers provide financial support to these children through voluntary agencies so that these children again can be maintained in their own homes. Experiments have shown that you require about 50 rupees per child in a family in order to see that he remains with his own mother rather than be placed outside the home. Whereas institutional care costs are well over 100 rupees a child.
One of the ways members of the community can of course help is by sponsoring a child. India Sponsorship Committee is a voluntary non-profit organization which helps underprivileged children with their education. How does it work? Dr. Zulina Khuda, its administrator, explains.
There are many children in India who are in destitution because of poverty. Sponsorship as a financial help becomes an enabling factor for the parent to look after the child and to educate him. It costs a sponsor not more than 50 rupees a month to sponsor a child, and it is a sharing of social responsibility for individuals with a conscience who believe that children are our national asset and it's an investment in human resources.
I met two persons who have benefited from this sponsorship scheme. They are Greshan and Sanjay. They tell their own stories.
I started getting sponsorship on 1966, and it continued for 10 years. At that time, my father was a millman. He had 11 members to support. Times were very difficult. We could not pay our school fees, and uniforms also were not proper, and because of that we were sent back home. Sponsorship helped us in that mother could pay fees regularly and uniforms were also proper. Then I could visit many beautiful places and spots like Hyderabad and all that, because of that only. Then my sphere of activities also increased. I could take part in dramatic sports and other activities also. Then I could get social contact with friends, mixed with friends and all that. At present I'm working in a bank. I finished my graduation also. I am well settled.
My father was only earning member in the family, and we 5 of us were schooling. So it was rather difficult to bear these educational expenses after deferring all the expenses of the family. And I was selected for this sponsorship. Now I am doing my last year BCom, and I am working in the Western Railway. So we have formed our Sponsor Students Association, and now we are also sponsoring one child.
You know, this is one thing. A home is far more important than anything else in the life of a child. And what we are trying to give the child is a home, even though it's not his home, it's somebody else's home, what the things that happen in a home are known to him. Otherwise, a child who's brought up in an institution does not have the family feelings. The human touch is not there. So when he grows up also, he does not have the human touch. And we wonder, why are there problems of the young people? Why have they become so violent? Why have they become so reckless? What do you expect of someone who has no support, no love, no help from the family, no help to, a mother may hit a child, but at the same time, she'd love the child also.
If we do have some kind of placement away from home for the child, it should not be in large congregate institutions. This is not either emotionally healthy for the child and socially quite disastrous, because the child is isolated from the community. In fact, some institutionalized children don't know what is family life. How do you expect these children, when they are discharged from their, at the age of 18, 19, to go settle down and have a family? In fact, they don't know what is husband-wife relationship, parent-child relationship. These are the kinds of problems we face.
What can be done now? How can the government, private agencies, or members of the community can help? Mrs. Nasrullah.
Public really can help in whatever way it is, in a very small way too. The children now who are in their homes, they can befriend them through a letter, through visiting. They can go 1 hour a week, they can go once every month, but then establish some kind of a friendship with these children who have nobody else to go to. And you'll be surprised what change comes into the lives of these people. Otherwise they feel, there's no one to care for them. But when you go to them and you start talking to them about things about themselves, that someone is interested in them, it makes all the difference. And the feeling that there is no one who takes, who cares for us is gone, because the word care is what should be emphasized as far as these children are concerned. So any housewife, anybody who has a little time, and I know all of us can find a little time, contact a home where they say, now I want a friend, and that person becomes a friend, she becomes a didi, she becomes an auntie, she becomes a mummy. I'm everything to everyone, and I love it because it's the feeling, the warmth that they exude. I get really more out of them than they give me.
Now I can give an example, simple example, like sometimes in Raksha Bandhan, the line ladies, they come in every year. They tie the Rakhis to the children on that particular day. Now especially the children who are too young and coming from up country, running away from homes because of insecurity in the house, or because they don't get the love and affection from the parents. At that time you can see the atmosphere, how they cry and immediately come out with their feelings. So it shows that they need, the love.
So people, if they just keep writing to a child, go and see him once in a way, call him on a festival day, take him to a movie, take him sometime to the zoo, something to make him feel that someone wants him, someone cares for him. This word care, I want to repeat, is something that gives, to all of us also with families, but in the life of a destitute child, it goes a long way.
As one of the poets has very aptly said, that it is easier to teach a child to laugh than an old man to smile.
The problem of destitution and problem of destitute children will not be solved by welfare. It will only be solved when our own social structure changes, where there is what we call redistributive justice, where there is equity, where 1% of people will own 1% of resources and not 25% own 75%. That is when the problem of destitution will be eventually tackled in the correct way. Finally, I would also like to say that we have many, many miles to go therefore in our society. But we cannot go at our speed as we are going. We will have to go at jet speed to cover these miles, because children cannot wait.
Indeed, children cannot wait. In 1976, 1,300 newborn babies were abandoned in Bombay alone. In India, one child is born every 1.5 seconds, 45 children each minute. While you have been watching this program, 1,500 new babies have been added to the country's population. Of these, about 150 are likely to end up as destitutes. Good night.
Just like a flower, I'm growing wild. No one's kisses